Welcome to the Pub Sports Radio College Basketball Closing Time Show, Saturday, February the 20th. Ian Cameron and Connor Mack with you, ready to break down a big Saturday of college basketball. There's a lot of games involving teams that are trying to win conferences, teams trying to get a big signature win to improve their tournament resume. So it is a very important day for a lot of teams in college basketball. Let's get to it. We'll start with of course, always the early slate, and then we work our way down. We start with Michigan State, Indiana, and the gift that keeps on giving lately has been fading the Spartans. Indiana laying 6 at home at Assembly, total 135 in this game, and I'm going to keep it simple. I'm on Indiana here, -6. Dare this Michigan State team to show me something. Obviously, they lost once again on the road at Purdue earlier this week. I was a bit shocked that number stayed anchored around 5.5, 6, given the struggles we've seen out of the Spartans. They did compete in that game. I'll say that. The work ethic, the effort level was there. The execution was not, and especially the execution down the stretch, which is essentially where Michigan State lost the game and lost the cover. They couldn't make buckets. They fouled a lot. Purdue put Purdue on the line, couldn't get stops when they needed it. It's basically been wash, rinse, repeat that way for Michigan State. So even if this game is close and Michigan State's competitive for a while, I think Indiana's got the chance to make those plays down the stretch, kind of like they did against Minnesota at home earlier this week, pull away, get the cover. The number's probably in a good spot. I don't think the number is as good with fading Michigan State here as it was against Purdue, because I do think Purdue's a little bit better than Indiana. But I'll go ahead and lay 6 with Indiana because I just think Michigan State's just absolutely floundering right now, and I don't know if I see it turning around for them. Connor, what do you think here? Spartans versus Hoosiers.
Yeah, I was with you the other day on Purdue. They came through. I like Indiana here as well. I didn't bet it though. I think at 6.5, you're starting to push it. I just was thinking, I'm going to take this one this morning, and I could have that one Michigan State good game. Indiana is just not the team. Even though at home they're a lot better, and they've been able to score pretty at will at home, they're the side here. I'd only go Indiana or nothing. So I'm with you here. I didn't bet Indiana, but I'd go that way at 6.5. I think it's just a little stretched out. I'm worried about that little backdoor cover, or Michigan State all of a sudden plays one of its best games of the year, which I don't see it coming because we haven't seen anything from the Spartans to show for it. But I'm just tiptoeing a little bit. We see Kentucky playing better. Duke's playing a little better. It doesn't mean every team like Michigan State, but I'm just a little cautious. I thought I'd pass this one. We got a bunch of other ones, but I'm with you. I'd lean a little bit on Indiana.
Yeah, when you got a massive card like this, sometimes the best decision you can make is pass, and sometimes the best decision is the bet you don't make. So and you got to definitely keep that in the back of your mind when you're dealing with a massive slate and lots to choose from like this card. We've got Georgia Tech and Miami in the ACC. Georgia Tech 3.5-point road favorites, 137 the total in this game. Georgia Tech prefer them at home usually as opposed to on the road, particularly laying points. Maybe Miami might be worth a look here. We've seen Miami, step up at times this year. They've had obviously guys in and out. They've had inconsistency. They've had some terrible losses. They've also had some great wins, like beating Duke, on their home floor. So we know the team is capable here. I would look to Miami a little bit plus the points. Connor, what do you think here with the Yellow Jackets and Canes?
I look to Miami a little bit as well, and I like Georgia Tech. I just these numbers 3.5, 4.5, they've got me a little bit lately. So I lean a little bit with the Canes. I like a little bit. Miami's played a tad bit, and so's Georgia Tech, but I think it's because the teams they played. I leaned a little bit towards the over this 136.5. I think they could get over the total here. It's not my favorite look, but I lean over in this one, 136.5.
All right, next up, we've got a very good game here in the Big East. UConn and Villanova. The Wildcats, 7-point home favorites, 135, 136.5, the total in that range. Look, UConn's playing Villanova at the right time in terms of they're going to put themselves in their best position to challenge and compete with Villanova because they're healthy again. James Bouknight is back. They're starting to get healthier. We saw them get a nice win and cover against Providence in the first game with Bouknight back. And boy, he thought maybe needs a game to get the rust off his hands and get back into the groove. He didn't need one. He was awesome in that game. And look, UConn's playing defense right now. That's really been what's carried them and kept them afloat, when they had all these injuries, including to their leading scorer. So you got to give Danny Hurley credit. He said, we got to preach defense. We got to play that way. It's not going to be as easy without our top guy to score points. And they've definitely brought that defensive intensity forward here. And now that they can score a little bit better, they're going to be a challenge here, I think, for Villanova. The problem is every time I fade Villanova, it doesn't always end well for me. I'm always a little bit leery of going against this team, Villanova. But we have seen at times they've been susceptible. We saw what happened last weekend against Creighton. We saw them, lose to St. John's. We saw them almost lose to Georgetown and didn't cover as home favorites. So to me, this looks like a UConn or pass game for me. But I'm always a little leery of going against Villanova. It's just been one of those teams where I find I don't always lose going against them, but I find I've lost more than I've won going against them. Nevertheless, my lean is UConn here, +7 in this game. Maybe the over too, because they can score a little bit better as well. We've seen Villanova scoring and not necessarily locking it down defensively the last few games, compared to what they were earlier in the season. So dog and over would be the lean for me here. What do you think here, Conor, with a good one in the Big East with UConn and Nova?
Yeah, I think you got to take the 7 here. I think it's just too many. I know Villanova can get hot, and they could win this by 10. But Book Knight's back, and I'm with you on the total. I think this could get into a kind of grinded out, slower game that UConn wants to do. But Villanova's at home. I think it's a tad bit low, and it's dropped a little bit. I'm going to go the other way. I saw Mike. I like the over in this one as well. Last game, what was it, 71-63, just barely got over that total. That's all we need here is a couple more baskets. I think we get this in this game. I like the over. I'm on the points with UConn 7 and the over 136.5.
Yeah, the over to me was probably going to be a pass at the opener, but we've seen it drop a couple of points now.
It's dropped.
You're getting a little bit of value with this total now. If you like it over, you're getting a better number now than you did at the opener. So that might get me interested in actually going to the window with the over here. Kentucky and Tennessee, we've got the Vols 7.5-point home favorites in this game over Kentucky. The total has been bet up here, 134.5 to 137 in this game. We'll see how it goes, but Tennessee is definitely I remember people were just absolutely just singing the praises, couldn't get enough of Tennessee early in the season, but it's been a little bit more up and down for them here in SEC play. They've already lost 5 games in SEC play, including the road loss at LSU. They did bounce back strong in their last game against South Carolina, 93-73, just blow the doors off the Gamecocks. But nevertheless, it's a team that's still a little bit difficult, I think, to trust at times, laying points. They've been hit or miss. You look at them as favorites. It's not necessarily been a great run for them. In fact, just 3-6 against the number, their last 9, and they were favored in every one of those games. So, and Kentucky, look, I haven't once considered betting on Kentucky. I'm considering it here in this game for the very first time.
Yeah, you have it.
Yeah, for the very first time, I'm considering it here. With taking 7 points here for Kentucky against this Tennessee team. They lost 82-71, of course, a couple of weeks ago at Rupp Arena to this Volunteers team. So it's a revenge spot for Kentucky. And look, they barely beat Vanderbilt on the road. That's not saying a lot. They didn't play all that well in that game. They beat Auburn 82-80 in the game before that at home, which was, I thought, a decent win. So, they barely won those 2 games. But before that, like I said, the 11-point loss to Tennessee, but a 1-point loss to Arkansas, 5-point road loss to Missouri. So they've been competitive, and that's all you need if you're going to get 7.5. So I'm on Kentucky here plus 7.5. And I'm also going to look toward over the total. And Mike Campbell in the chat brought up a great point. From a point spread standpoint, this is probably one of the biggest underdog prices we've ever gotten with a Kentucky Wildcats team in years. And he's saying it's in 3 years. So that doesn't shock me. I think Kentucky, you're seeing glimpses of improvement. This is still not a great basketball team by Kentucky standards, but you're seeing little glimpses of improvement, especially offensively. They have scored the ball a lot better in recent games. It's also why they've gone 5 straight overs, which also has me leaning over this total in this game. at 137, and I understand why it's gone up a little bit. So I'm leaning Kentucky plus 7.5, also leaning over 137 in this one. What do you think, Connor? Kentucky, Tennessee.
Real quick. Yeah, Jake, I lean Tulane there. I haven't bet that. I know that's early in the morning, but
talk about it because it's a lesser game. But
yeah, I'm just hitting on it for
against the spread for Tulane in their last 6 games.
All cash is plus
can't
money
go against them, and I'm on Tulane as well. You can't go against them. They've been a red hot money machine. I've been riding them this whole time. Just keep on going with it.
Yeah, I'm with you here. I think it's just too many points, and I went against Tennessee the other day with South Carolina. Yeah, they blew them out won by 20. I was getting 11.5. I think 7.5 is a lot here. You just named all those scores. Kentucky's been playing competitive lately. A few of those were at home. Road win at Vandy, lost by 5 to Missouri. And I'd lean towards that over. Tennessee's kind of been over, and this isn't a number. It's crept up a little bit. It's not like my favorite look, but I'd lean towards the over 137. Tennessee 3 overs in a row. Kentucky 5. I've been on the Kentucky over, I think 4 straight. I've been on their overs. They've all cashed. So I like the points here. I think 7.5 is a bunch. In a Tennessee team are they maybe getting back to that team we thought they were? I don't know. Rick Barnes, I've never been high on him, especially towards the end of the year. His team seemed to falter. So I'm on Kentucky plus 7.5. And yeah, I lean that over 137.
All right, Vanderbilt, Alabama. We stay in the SEC. Alabama, 14-point home favorites. The total 153.5 in this one. Definitely should see a lot of points. This is a defense optional type of team, Vanderbilt, this season. We've definitely seen it on full display. You'd expect more of the same here, but they are scoring as well right now, Vanderbilt. You got to be impressed with the way they've been able to go. Scottie Pippen Jr. Had a lot of turnover issues at times in the last game for Vanderbilt, but from a scoring standpoint, very explosive score for this Vanderbilt team. And you look at them, their last few games, they've put up 70s at least in pretty much all except one of their last 7 games. So this team is definitely scoring. Early in the season, they weren't scoring as much. Now they are, and that's definitely been a benefit to them. They put up 78 against Kentucky in that 82-78 loss the other day. Game goes over the total in that one. You look at this Vanderbilt team on the road, they've still been able to score points. Now, a couple of those games have stayed under, but Mississippi State, Georgia, the ones that went over were the better teams. Florida went over on the road, Vandy did. Tennessee went over on the road that game as well. Kentucky on the road, that game went over the total. And Alabama obviously is every bit as good, if not better, than all of those teams. Alabama's gotten their offense going. Offense went away for Alabama for a couple of games. I can't figure out why, but they had those few games there where, Missouri shut them down and they only scored 61 against Oklahoma. And they've gotten back to their high scoring and explosive breakneck pace ways in their last 2 games. 81 against South Carolina on the road. And then 115. 36 of 56 shooting. What a ridiculous percentage against Georgia in their last game in that 115-82 win. I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to stay off the side. It is a lot of points to be laying with Alabama, especially considering Kentucky's been somewhat competitive lately. But I do like the over here in this game, 153.5. What do you think, Conor? Vandy, Alabama.
Yeah, 115. They hung up. Just don't see that in college anymore. I remember when I was young, UNLV hit the hundreds all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Jerry Tarkanian days and obviously Nolan Richardson's Arkansas teams back then got up to the hundreds at times. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm with you. I haven't bet this one yet. I'd lean the over. How can you not? I know it's at 153. I've been watching myself on some of these. Taking an over, but how can you not? Vandy's been a team, every time I check a score, it's 70s and 80s for the most part. I'm going to have a small bet on Vandy, plus 14.5. It's not huge. I just think maybe Alabama, maybe a little lulled to sleep. And I like how Vandy's played. They almost covered the other day against Kentucky, just missed it. So I'm going to take the 14.5, take a little shot.
You know how you score 115 points, other than, of course, terrible defense on the Georgia side, is you have 5 Alabama players in double-digit scoring. Jaden Shackelford, John Petty, Herb Jones, Javon Quinterly, all with double digits in points in that game. And when they're all going at once, and we know they've got the capability to, they're all good offensive players. When they're all going at once, you're not beating Alabama. But again, you don't always get that every game. But when you do, not beating that team when they're going to get 5 guys, those caliber of players in double-digit scoring like they did against Georgia. Missouri, South Carolina. What has gone wrong with Missouri, and is this the ultimate buy low, bounce-back spot for them? They're taking on South Carolina. Missouri, 3.5 point road favorites here, total 150.5 in this game. I would lean that way. I think this is a good buy low spot for Missouri. I think they're just better than South Carolina. To me, we saw South Carolina get drubbed by Tennessee in their last game. I'm not sure if I trust them to show up here. They're only 3-3 straight up, 3-4 against the spread at home. Now, Missouri's not exactly been great on the road. That's the counter argument to that. And of course, we've talked about obviously for the last few games, Jeremiah Tillman's absence. There is a slight potential he could come back because it's a personal matter causing him to be out, but it's not a sure thing. Cousinard, a key guard for this South Carolina team, doubtful with a foot injury as well. So, I worry about South Carolina. They've lost 4 in a row. They've only covered once, and it was a 3-point home loss to Alabama. I know Missouri's had a tough go. They've struggled of late. I think it's a time for them to bounce back here after 3 losses. The Ole Miss loss was a flat spot after beating Alabama. The Arkansas loss in overtime, that's no great shakes. Arkansas is playing good ball. And even the loss at Georgia without Tillman. Georgia's better at home than they are on the road. So I think this is the time. I've purposely stayed off Missouri. I think I'm going to take my chance to say this is the spot for them to get back in the win column. I like Mizzou here. What do you think, Connor, with this game?
Sorry. Yeah, I think this is too. Man, they have not played well. I thought Tillman was a big key to the other game, the other day. When he went out in the Arkansas game, then they lost it. With not having him, I think it was pretty big. Some people didn't think it was that big. I think it was. This is the buy low. I think this is it. South Carolina's sliding, like you said, only covered 1 of 4, lost 4 in a row. I got a small one on Missouri here, -3. I think they can get the job done today. I hope so. If not, they're in a world of trouble.
Yep.
I mean, if they lose in the SC tournament, I know they have good wins and they have some good losses. They count, but yeah, the seeding's going down for sure.
All right, we've got Notre Dame, Syracuse. Syracuse 2.5 point home favorites, 150.5 the total in this game. Syracuse, pretty erratic team at times. Notre Dame is an interesting team to look into moving forward because Notre Dame, of course, not quite the team they've had in years past, but you can't deny the fact that Notre Dame's playing their best basketball right now. 5 straight point spread covers, 5-0 ATS their last 5, including a road win at Duke. They beat Miami at home 71-61 in their last game. They're putting it together right now. That's a good sign. Now, Syracuse has played pretty well at home this year. But Notre Dame is one of those teams. They're on a point spread run. The numbers creeping up a little bit on Syracuse. They opened 2. It's up to 3.5. People see that 10-1 straight up record, for Syracuse at the Carrier Dome this season. And I understand that. But they've been good on the road, Notre Dame. They've been good overall from a point spread standpoint. They're playing their best ball of the season. You look at the 2 games last year, Notre Dame and Syracuse, 2-point Syracuse win at Notre Dame. 1-point Syracuse win here at Syracuse, 88-87. Down to the wire games, both of them decided by 2 points or less. Now that I can get, with Notre Dame here, +3, +2.5 in some spots, I like Notre Dame here, +3. I'm riding the hot team, which is the covering machine suddenly. 5 straight Notre Dame. I'll take the Irish here. Connor, what do you think, Notre Dame, Syracuse?
Yeah, I always like to take Syracuse kind of at home, laying a short number, but I haven't been impressed by them all year. And like you just said, Notre Dame, the beatdown of Pitt, Wake, lost by 2 at Georgia Tech, and then we know they beat Duke at Duke, and then the home win in Miami. I take the 3 here. I'd lean a little bit towards the over. I mean, they've been playing in the 80s. I don't know if I would bet it. I mean, at 150, it's up there. All of a sudden, they really want to go. They've been scoring. Earlier in the year, they were losing. They were scoring in the 60s. They've been pushing the pace and scoring a lot more. I'd maybe look towards the over just a little bit. But at that number, I didn't bet it, so I passed on the total.
Yeah, I agree with that in terms of pumping the brakes. Actually, Syracuse has slowed it down. Well, it's funny. Notre Dame sped it up. Syracuse has slowed it down compared to what the pace they were playing at early in the season. And you're right, the total 150, not a great bargain by any stretch. Texas Tech versus Kansas. We've got Kansas 1.5, 2-point home favorites, total 134 in this game. It's obviously been an uneven season. This is not a vintage Kansas team, but they played better lately. There's no question. Kansas is another one of these teams. You wait for these teams that maybe struggled early in the year to find their footing, play a little bit better. You're seeing that right now from Bill Self's team. They're definitely on an upswing. 4 straight wins, 4 straight covers. Oklahoma State and Iowa. Now, they beat Iowa State twice, the bad team, and Kansas State. So a couple bad teams in there. But the home win against Oklahoma State, you got to start somewhere. Are you ready now to take on Texas Tech? That remains the big question. The Texas Tech team that hasn't played in a little bit. It's been almost 2 weeks since they played Texas Tech, and it was that 82-71 home loss to West Virginia. So how sharp is this team going to be? I think the one thing that concerns me here is the Red Raiders have been a point spread disaster the last few games. They've been overvalued. They're only 2-10 against the number last 12 versus teams with a winning record on the road. So you got to worry about that a little bit if you're Texas Tech. Can you buy into Kansas, though? Again, 3 of the last 4 wins were Kansas State and Iowa State, the 2 bottom feeders of the Big 12. So that's the big question here. Are you ready to take down Texas Tech? I will say this about Kansas. When they played Texas Tech earlier this season in Lubbock, down to the wire game, 58-57, and Kansas won it on the road in Lubbock back on December 17th. So, they've been a team that's been able to match up okay here with this Texas Tech team. You look at the recent meetings, 3 straight victories here for Kansas. It's a tough one because, you got Texas Tech revenge, but Texas Tech hasn't been covering numbers lately. And you say, wow, Kansas is playing better lately, but whoa, Kansas State and Iowa State were 3 of the 4 wins. How much can you put stock into that? So it's tough. I can go back and forth both ways. It's an interesting game to watch. I'm going to pass on it. It's tough. I could make a case for both teams. What do you think, Conor? Here, Red Raiders, Jayhawks.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think this is a watch spot. I don't think there's much value from a betting side in this game. I mean, earlier in the year, long time ago, December 17th. Like you said, Kansas won 58-57. I think it's close, but you're not getting enough with Texas Tech. Just take a money line or the 1.5. It's just not a great gambling game, I think. And like you said, Kansas, wow, they won 4 in a row, 4 against the spread. Couple bottom feeders, Iowa State twice, K-State. And Texas Tech's been struggling a little bit. If I had to bet this one, I'd take Kansas at home. Just money line or minus the 1.5, but I don't love it at all. I'm not betting this game. It was a pass for me as well.
All right, next up, we've got, as we go on down the card here, still a bunch of big games to go through here. We'll get to as many of them as we can. Most of them, I always have a list on the Saturday shows, which games I definitely want to talk about. And it's usually the most marquee, biggest games. This one is definitely one of them. West Virginia and Texas. We've got Texas 3.5 point home favorites, 147 the total. Texas got West Virginia at the buzzer in Morgantown earlier this season. It was a buzzer beater, and you would think West Virginia ain't going to forget about that, taking the court here today against Texas. A Texas team, they've had so many fits and starts and stops this year, this squad. But finally, they're starting to get into a regular playing rhythm again after a lot of hiatuses and shutdowns. They've struggled against the number. They're actually just 1-6 ATS their last 7, coming off one of their better games in a while. 70-55 beatdown over TCU, although that's TCU. I don't know how much that it says about Texas, more about how bad TCU is. West Virginia, on the other hand, they've been on a good run. their last 7 games, 5-2 straight up. During that span, the only losses, 5-point loss to Florida at home, and then the 1-point loss in overtime at home against Oklahoma. Real tough loss for West Virginia in that game against the Sooners, who are playing good ball. Look, I don't have to talk too much about it because I've talked about it ad nauseum, multiple games, multiple shows with West Virginia, over. It just keeps on coming in. It's now 6 straight games over the total for them, 9-1 to the over their last 10 games. We'll see if anything changes here, but first meeting went over the total with these two teams in Morgantown. It was 72-70, 142. The total in that game was 139.5. So we have seen a significant adjustment. This total is now 146. So I think it's going to come close to the number, but I've been riding West Virginia overs. They've been cashing. I'm going to ride it again, and I'm going to take West Virginia here, plus the 3.5 in this game at Texas. I think they bring it. They lost a gut wrencher to Texas earlier this year. You could argue that these two teams, in terms of current form, you could even argue West Virginia's in a little bit better current form right now than Texas. So give me the points with WVU, and I'm also going to look over the total. What do you think with this one, Connor? A nice Big 12 matchup here, West Virginia, Texas.
Yeah, good matchup here. I think the value here is with West Virginia, especially if you can get 3.5. Take it. I think this one's close. I think it's just like the one at West Virginia. How can you not go wrong with the overs? I'm almost, because I've been kind of on that streak with you. I think at 147, though, it's getting a little high. I could see this one maybe breaking it. But how when you're riding a hot streak until it goes, it goes. So I don't blame you for taking the over. I haven't bet that side yet. I've already taken West Virginia plus 3.5. I think they match up well. I haven't been that impressed with Texas. And other than their last few games against Oak State and TCU, a couple unders, Texas has been an over team all year as well. I mean, they've played in the high 70s, low 80s. They had at one point, I think 7 or 8 straight overs right before these couple unders. So they're an over team as well. If you're thinking about playing the over and get this total, that's a little high at 147.
All right, we've got Illinois and Minnesota in the Big Ten here. We've got Illinois 4.5-point road favorites total in this game. Currently 145.5. It looks like the total in this one. Yeah, 145.5 across the board. This could be one of the best guard matchups you'll see all season, not just in the Big Ten, all season. When you're talking Marcus Carr versus Ayo Dosunmu, I mean, this is going to be absolutely outstanding to see these two guys go head-to-head in this matchup here. I got to be honest, I am definitely looking a little bit toward Minnesota in this game. Underdog. We know how Michael has been at home. What are they, 10-1? They're 13-1 straight up, 9-4-1 against the spread at home. They're catching points at home in this game. I know they're off back-to-back losses, but again, to Maryland and Indiana, but on the road, and Minnesota can't do anything on the road. It's amazing how they're so bad on the road, Connor, and then at home they turn into a different beast. A team that's capable of beating Purdue and beating Michigan. Remember, they beat Michigan, who are on fire at home, and they blew them out at home, 75-57. We know they're capable. They're going to probably give Illinois a game here. And we've seen Illinois fail to cover numbers, disinterested at times, going through the motions at times. They feel like one of those teams, when you watch them, they ramp it up when they have to, and it's time to win the game. They step it up, and then they look like that Final Four capable team. And then there's times where they're just, sleepwalking in games, like they did against Northwestern. That was a perfect example the other night. Total sleepwalk from Illinois for most of that game. But they ramped it up when they had to late in the game to get the victory. That's the team I'm not comfortable with laying points, especially on the road against a good home team like Minnesota. So I would look to the Gophers here a little bit in this game as a home underdog. What do you think, Connor, with Illinois, Minnesota?
Yep, this is where I looked at this last night. I took it at 5.5 I got last night in one of my books. I thought it was large, and now it's dropped to 4.5. I mean, I still like it. You're right. This is where I want Minnesota catching, 5 at the barn. You're right. Illinois has looked like they go through the motions. Then it's like, let's turn it on and win the game kind of at the end. They look like they're just ready to get kind of through the season. And Minnesota, just a different team, and, in the barn. I want nothing to do with them on the road, and they just love playing at home here. They love the rims. They love the home cooking. I don't know at Patino. You can't get them coached up on that road, but sure at home they play well. So I'm with you here. I got to grab the points. I think it's too many at home for a Minnesota team that this is the one spot you want to take them, especially catching a bunch of points at home. So I'm on Minnesota.
Yeah, this song is probably like almost 20 years old right now, but every time I hear Io DeSunmu's name, I think of that song that Timberlake did 20 years ago. Ayo, tired of using technology.
Technology.
Yeah, that's the one.
I
Io
used to say,
technology. Yeah, it's just reminds me of that. DeSunmu's
hey,
first name. Yeah, I'm tired of using the Timberland. Yeah. Oh man, I'm
oh
dating
yeah,
myself. I'm an old man now.
dude,
Old
I
man.
used to play that. Yeah, I know. We're the same age. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Ao DeSumo, Ao Technology. Yeah. But yeah, good memories. Auburn LSU. We've got LSU 4.5 point home favorites. 164.5 the total in this game. This total, geez, it opened 161.5, and the betting markets have bet it up. And I obviously am interested in the over, but at some point, I mean, it's 164.5. I know it's LSU's defense and you're going to get it. Two teams that play fast. I get it. And LSU's defense can't be trusted most nights, even though some nights it's actually been decent the last couple, which is odd. Bizarre to see that. They've actually played a little bit better defensively, but I don't know. It just seems like the ship has sailed. The value ship has sailed in terms of the total on this game. That's the one concern. I wouldn't argue with it. Auburn's gone over the total in 5 of their last 6 games. They've seen, it's 170, 156, 176, 170. 162 in the last game against Kentucky. I mean, Auburn's an over machine. We know LSU can get up and over the total, although they've trended 3 of their last 4 under. It's just 164.5 is a mountain of a number. So for me, it's a pass in this one. As far as the side goes here, LSU's won 2 in a row, against Tennessee and Mississippi State. So maybe Will Wade's team they're in enough of a good zone right now that I'm not in a rush to go against them here. But I also don't have any interest laying 4.5 with LSU because that flighty defense of theirs, it can go away at any moment. What do you think here with Auburn LSU?
Yeah, the total's really high. I mean, and I think it gets there, but man, that's high. You need like an 86, 82, 80. I mean, just to get that over. So I can't take it either. Yeah, the ship has sailed there. And I can't lay 4.5. I'd lean to LSU. They've been playing better at home, but not 4 is creeping out of it. I think, I think just a week before these big wins, I think this is a pick'em game. Maybe they're -1. So I think the value's gone. Auburn covered last weekend, barely there, got the backdoor cover by a couple. I don't know about 4 here. I mean, I'd lean Auburn taking the 4, but I didn't bet this one.
Right, Stanford and Washington State, Pac-12. We've got Stanford 5.5 point road favorites, 135 the total in this game. I'm a stickler for not a stickler. I like them because I've backed them a couple times, including the last game against Cal. This Washington State team, I think Kyle Smith's one of the most emerging up and coming coaches in college basketball right now. I mean, this was a pathetic program he took over. Really, it was. It's just beyond repair, it seemed. And they're getting a little bit better. You're seeing it in their last few games, which is important to see. How about the fact no Isaac Bonton against Cal? And he's easily their best player.
Yeah.
And they still wiped the floor with the Golden Bears in that game. Real impressive. They might actually get Bonton back in this game. But regardless, they've clearly found out how to kind of play without him in that win against Cal. You look at Stanford on the other hand. They've not necessarily been great at times against better competition. You look at some of these wins. Utah at home. Utah's a young, inexperienced team. Washington in their last game. Cal twice, but they lost to Arizona State, lost to USC, lost to UCLA, lost to Colorado. Stanford's I thought they were an upper-tier Pac-12 team. They're more of a mid-tier team. And I think Washington State has proven they can compete with these kind of teams like Stanford. Stanford's had a lot of, again, starts and stops this year. Home dog price with Washington State, I'm interested for sure. What do you think, Conor? Stanford, Washington State.
Yeah, I've been a Washington State kind of backer all year, and they've won a lot more for me than they've lost. And I think Stanford's pretty good, but I don't know about laying 5.5 on the road. It feels like one of those weird games. Stanford's a bit better than Utah. It's like when I took Utah short favorites, I don't know, last week against Cal, and they had it, and then they blew it, and they won by like 1. And, they were up by 7 or 8, missed free throws. right now, Washington State's playing well. If Vaughn plays, I'm waiting on. I think he's a go, like you said. I'd take the 5.5 with Washington State here. And I took the over in that game. It just barely got there. They scored a bunch. I lean a little bit towards the over here. I think maybe some of these totals are a little bit low out west, like at 133.5.
All right, next up, we've got, as we go on down the card, we'll ramp up the pace here. We got about 10 minutes left. We'll go on to, let's see here. Oh, there we go. Seton Hall, Georgetown in the Big East. Seton Hall, 4-point road favorites, 142 the total. Seton Hall shot pretty poorly. DePaul, of course, as well in that game. That was a very, very low-scoring game. I like to look toward offenses reverting back to form after a anomaly type of shooting effort like that. I agree with the total going up in this game with Seton Hall and Georgetown. As far as the side goes, I lean Seton Hall, but they've been kind of tough sometimes to trust laying points on the road, and Georgetown's been scrappy, so I'll probably pass on the side, but I do agree with the total from 141 to 143. I think it gets over. Conor, what's your thoughts here? Pirates and Hoyas.
I passed on this one. I wanted a few more points with Georgetown. I think they might be the side. I took DePaul the other day, and you're right. Maybe Seton Hall, they need a good shooting night, 57-51 and 60-52. Kind of a different team than we saw earlier in the year, scoring-wise. So I'm going to lay off this one. I want to watch it a little bit, and you kind of alluded to Georgetown's scrappy. It's just tough for them to back them this short a number +4 because they just can't put two halves together, a full game, full 40 minutes to feel great about taking points with them, especially I'm only getting 4. If it was 7, maybe I'd look to Georgetown. So I had to pass here.
All right. Next up, Louisville, North Carolina. We've got North Carolina 5-point home favorites here. 141 the total. Remember, Louisville was supposed to play Syracuse earlier this week, and that game got postponed. So as a result, it's been a little bit of a longer break for Louisville prior to this matchup against North Kakalaki. Louisville's been all over the map. On the road, they've been not necessarily, they beat Pitt, BC, and Wake on the road. The last 2 on the road, though, they lose to Miami as favorites, and they lose to Clemson, 54-50. So, on the road's been a little bit of a difficult proposition here for this Louisville team. You've got North Carolina. They lost to Virginia on the road, but beat Duke prior to that. Came back home and routed Northeastern 82-62, that weird non-conference game. They've been pretty solid on their home court here. It looks like there's a chance that Nickelberry may not play here for Louisville. He's battling with a wrist injury, so that would be a decent absence for them. Not something you'd want to see if you're Chris Mack. But the number's in a good spot, 5. It's not just laying a bucket. You're laying a little bit more than that. I think North Carolina wins the game, just not comfortable laying 5. What do you think, Conor, with Louisville, North Carolina?
Yeah, I'm not comfortable with North Carolina here. And I haven't been loving how Louisville's been playing a bit lately. Injuries. They just haven't been able to sync kind of all your glimpses, flashes, then some bad losses. If I had to, I haven't bet this one. I take the points. I am on the total here. North Carolina's been an over team. I think we can get over 140 here. I'm on the over 140.
All right, Arizona, USC. We've got Arizona's taking money here. USC's down to 6-point home favorites here from 7.5, 140 the total. Maybe people see that this might be like the national championship for Arizona because they're not going to postseason basketball this year. You're playing the top team in the Pac-12 here, USC. Maybe you get revved up, you get fired up to play, and they do still have talent. Now they're coming off an ugly loss against UCLA. USC's just been they keep on getting it done. The USC Trojans in impressive fashion. I wouldn't step in front of them, but I get the thought process of why someone might be like in Arizona here. But I don't know. Arizona motivation alone isn't enough to cover a number. You know what I mean? Like they played poorly against UCLA. If they play like that again, there's no way they're covering this number against USC the way they're going. The Mobley twins, I know one of them's been banged up and questionable. I think that's got something to do with it, the Mobley brothers. So keep an eye on that. That could also be influencing this number and why maybe Arizona's taking money. So keep an eye on that. But I would only look to USC, but I'm not going to. I'm going to stay off. What do you think, Conor, with this game?
I lean towards USC here. Arizona, I get why they're taking it, yeah, because they have nothing. This is maybe it's the end of the year. They have nothing to play for. But SC's been good at home. I'd actually lay the 6 here with them. That's not my favorite look, and I haven't bet it yet, but I might get to the window. I'd be on the Trojans or nothing. Arizona, especially on the road, I haven't wanted to back them at all. And a banged up UCLA team, they didn't look good at all the other day. I watched the second half of that game. No bueno. So SC or pass.
Colorado, Oregon State. Next up, we've got Colorado, 6.5-point road favorites, 136 the total. I cashed a ticket against Colorado in their last game, riding Oregon. I'm telling you, Oregon's been undervalued now for several games because they had that shutdown. They had a couple guys out. Duarte was out. Now they've got their Figueroa was also missed a couple of games. Now they got everybody back healthy again, an elite coach in Dana Altman. And you're seeing Oregon now, not surprising, February going into March, playing their best basketball of the season. What else is new? It's wash, rinse, repeat with Oregon. Peyton Pritchard teams for the last couple of years. Same thing. They played their best basketball late in the season. So Colorado looking to bounce back from that loss. But look out for Oregon State. I mean, all of a sudden, Wayne Tinkle's bunch has shown you some serious life, down the stretch here. A big home win for them against Utah. Colorado's not been quite that same team away from Boulder. I don't know. I'm leaning home dog here. You would have said you're nuts early in the season to take Oregon State against Colorado.
Yeah.
Again, teams change over the course of a long season. Some teams get worse. Other teams get better. There's no doubt the Beavers are getting better. There's no doubt they're improving, and not just improving a little. They're improving quite a bit. I think they might be able to give Colorado a scare here. I'm leaning to the home dog. What do you think, Connor, with the Buffs and the Beavs?
Buffs and the Beavs. Yeah, I'd lean with the Beavs. Colorado is great. But one thing I've noticed, and the way they've been playing lately, is it kind of the last few years, they've faded down the stretch. They're always not, they're a great home team, and they've started out hot. This is the last 3 years, I think, especially the last two. They're not very good on the road. They've had some good road wins this year. It seems like the second half, compared to the beginning, they come out red hot. I take the 6.5 here with Tinkle's bunch with the Beavs. So, and I'd lean towards the over a little bit, 136.5.
All right, this will be the final game we break down on the main card before we get to best bet, or added board opinions and best bets to wrap up the show. And we're ending it with, this is the referendum on Duke, this game tonight. Virginia taking on Duke. We've got Virginia, 2-point road favorites at Cameron Indoor, 130 the total. All I hear from ESPN this morning on this College Game Day show that I've got in the television in my background here is Duke back? Is Duke back? I don't know. We don't know that yet. How can you say they're back already? They beat NC State without their best player, who have been absolutely god-awful since he's got injured, Devon Daniels. And then they beat Wake Forest, and Wake Forest has the capability of getting blown out on certain games. We've seen it from Wake Forest this season. Yeah. They've also been competitive at times, but it's a team that's also vulnerable to inconsistency. And Steve Forbes still doesn't have his full roster and his full recruits in there yet. So basically they beat two, below average ACC teams. That's the proof, apparently, to some people that Duke is back. No, Duke is back if you win tonight. At least somewhat back. Go out there tonight, beat Virginia, beat a good basketball team, which they haven't done all year. Then you can prove to me that you're back, as far as I'm concerned. And as far as Duke goes, you would expect Duke to play this game like Game 7 of a playoff series. They need this. They need this if they have any just little shred of hope for an NCAA tournament. And even then, this is not enough. They've got to win this game, and then they got to go on a run. They got to go on a run. They got to put a couple other marquee quality signature wins on the board, and they've also got to go on a deep run in the ACC tournament. They have to do all of those things, and only then are they probably in NCAA tournament consideration again. So it's a huge game for them, but there's no way I'm taking Duke, because I don't buy yet the 2 wins they got. The 2 wins they got are flawed wins. Team without their best player, team that's not even all that great without their best player, NC State, and then Wake, who are, making strides, but they're still a below average ACC team. Prove it tonight before I get on board with Duke here. So I'm not betting the game, but I would not be on Duke. I'll just put it that way. They got to show me they can beat someone good. What do you think, Connor, here, Virginia Duke? This is a fascinating game, though. We'll see what Duke's all about tonight.
I'm not betting this one either. I just don't see much of advantage. I'd want more with Duke the way they're playing right now to bet. Because are they this team that's played well the last few games against these kind of bottom, in NC State and Wake, not two great teams, or the team that's just gotten beat down, tons of home losses to a bunch of teams. I think Virginia is the better basketball team. I'd lean with them a little bit, laying the 2. Like I said, I haven't betted yet. And on the total, it depends what Virginia team comes. Like I said, they've gone to a few overs here, but if they clamp down, this is a dead under. It's just so that's why I have no feel on the total either. Because Duke, though, wants to get up and down. That's why I think this one could get over the 130. I'm going to look at it a bit more. I haven't made a bet on it. But if I was looking one way, I'd lean Virginia a little bit until I see something from Duke. But you're right. It's tough to bet and feel safe with even taking Virginia. This is Game 7. Duke is this. They got to win this one to get in the tournament. I think they need a signature win, a win at home. So it is a fascinating game. I'll definitely be watching. And I don't know if I'll get to the window. So if I do, I'll throw it out on Twitter if I play this one.
Yeah, and the funny thing that you said, and we both said it, they need to win this game to get into the tournament. Yeah, not just this game, because this is just the first step. Like this alone is not getting them in the tournament. No way. They need to win this, and they got to get another couple of big wins against like a North Carolina or Louisville or Syracuse or someone else in this Florida State. They got to beat someone like that in this conference down the stretch or in an ACC tournament. They got to get more than just this win, but this win would be a start toward the opening up the conversation again that maybe Duke can get back into the NCAA tournament picture once again. So yeah, Duke, this is the first time they've been a home dog in 5 years, says Mike Campbell. Yeah, I don't doubt that. I haven't looked it up, but I trust what you're saying. It's probably true. So yeah, again, because Virginia 2-point road favorites here. I'm sure my fellow countryman Dan Schulman will call this game tonight on ESPN along with Jay Billis. I'm sure they'll have those two doing this game. They usually have them doing the Duke game on a Saturday, so that wouldn't shock me. But they're a good listen, Dan and Jay. They do a good job. All right, that'll wrap it up. Added board. I don't have as many on the added board today. Boston and Colgate over the total. I like that one quite a bit. That was the one that stuck out to me. And the total's been bet up, I believe, in that from 149 to 151. I've been cashing these Boston games over the total. I've been cashing these Colgate games over the total. And now they're playing each other. So it made a lot of sense just to bet that one over the total. Fairleigh Dickinson taking money against Mount St. Mary's. I agree with that. I think they win that game. Lots of money on Fairleigh Dickinson, but I think they do get the win in that game. What else was I looking at? Holy Cross Army is another game you could maybe look over the total with. Sacred Heart, St. Francis. I like St. Francis, Brooklyn a little bit. They're starting to play good basketball there, putting it together. And Central Connecticut, LIU, Brooklyn over as well. So that's about it for me in the added board today. Anything for you, Connor, with the added games?
Yeah, I like that Boston over with Colgate. I like Holy Cross a little bit. Catching 11 or 10.5 against Army. A little bit. I haven't bet this yet. And I, like you said, I think that gets over 144. And I like Merrimack a little bit over Bryant. I know Bryant's really good, but I think Merrimack could hang in that game. You can get +6 or at least 5.5.
All right, good stuff. There's our added board opinions right there from myself and Connor Mack. Time to get to best bets in just a second. And it counts. I know the show got upended on Thursday, our last college basketball show, but I did have a best bet. I posted it on Twitter. It was Richmond. It didn't get the job done, so it broke the streak, but still 9-2 for me, the last 11 best bets on this show. So we'll hope to further that today. Connor, what do we got from our sponsors before we get to best bet?
Well, let's get my best bet. I put out all the bets. I went 6-0, and my best bet was Pacific, and they got their doors blown off.
Yeah, I know.
That's twice I took them. I took them against Gonzaga. I was like, they're getting like 27, and they got shelled. Then they played great. Pacific's like, they covered on Provo, cover. I think that, at home here, BYU hasn't played 10 days. Waxed.
I know.
I hope some people played. I hope some people played my other place.
Yeah.
Yeah. but bad best bet. Wow. Beat down. Anyways, go to mybookie.ag, hit promo code PubSports, get 50% off your debit or credit, get 100% off the Bitcoin. Use the Bitcoin. You put 1,000, you get 1,000, or at least minimum of 100. You put in 100, you get 100. MyBookie AG, promo code PubSports. Go to bulksupplements.com, hit promo code PubSports, get 5 to 10% off your order. Get all the creatine, protein, vitamins you need, vitamin C to fight off this coronavirus, zinc, vitamin D. And go to builtbar.com. You get 20% off your order. They got coconut, double chocolate, mint brownie, good snacks. Just hit promo code PubSports. And lastly, Manscaped, 20% off your order. Tree trimmer, ball deodorant, all their good stuff they got there at Manscaped. Just hit promo code PubSports. It's a good product. So go to manscaped.com.
All right, good stuff. It is time now for best bets. I'll let Conor start. Where are you going for best bet today?
I'll go to the big one. I like both in this matchup. It's hard for a best bet, but I like the 7 with UConn, but I'm going to take the over 136.5. I mean, I really like both, but I'll go with the over 136.5 Villanova UConn. I think we can get there. So that's my best bet.
I love his style of introducing his best bet, Conor. He gives you the tease best bet, and then he gives you the actual.
I got to give you a tease, baby.
I was thinking about
give you that tease.
I kind of like that one, but I'm going to go with this one right here. Yeah.
Well, I got to get the people a little, this was my other look. These are my, my couple good looks. And, but in this game, I like both those looks. I like the points, but I hate the best bet. Jimmy used to always say, Conor, you care too much. I love it. But, because I always be like, I'm the worst best bet guy. You're out there, but hey, I'm on the over. Villanova, Connecticut. I thought it was low. It dropped a little bit. Villanova, to me, is a team that can play. I'm worried about UConn's stifling defense, but Villanova's at home. I like that bet a little bit better than taking the 7, but should be a good game. Hopefully, we can cash a best bet. So that's it.
There we go. UConn Nova over 136.5. Actually 136 is available at BetOnline, so we'll give them that.
Is there one of them?
136 with UConn Villanova over for Conor Mac's best bet. And my best bet can be summed up in 2 words: meaningful revenge. Revenge gets thrown out so much. It's overused, it's overhyped, it's overrated. Not in the case of West Virginia's loss to Texas earlier this season. 1 point at the buzzer, gut-wrenching, because I think they led most of that game. I think they, at the very least, if not payback, make this a down-to-the-wire type of buzzer-beater game just like that one. You're getting 3 points with West Virginia. That's what I'm going with. West Virginia, +3 against Texas. That's my best bet for this Saturday, February 20th. I like the over in that game too, but I like the side a lot more.
Is there still not a hook out there?
It was 3.5s are gone. It's 3.
Okay. Yeah, there's one at draft. Okay. Maybe. Yeah. Okay. I thought you could get 3.5 because that's what I got. I think that's a great one. I love that one.
I already bet it. I already bet it at 3.5. Okay. That's what I got, but I got to give out I got to reference the number that's out there, the best available number that's out there right now, and that is 3.5. Good looking out for me there, Conor. There is a 3.5.
I thought there was. I mean, from what I was looking at, I thought there was a couple.
We'll go with that. West Virginia,
hook, baby.
3.5 against Texas. Best bet for Saturday, February 20th. College basketball closing time. And closing time, we're going to live up to that right now because it is closing time. That's a wrap. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. We appreciate it. Great comments, great views. We appreciate it immensely. I mean, we see a lot of the same names in the chat every week and every show. We appreciate it for sure. We will be back Tuesday for the next edition of the College Basketball Closing Time Show, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. Yeah, Conor, you want to say something? Go ahead.
I just want to say thanks, guys, for coming over for the kind of the technical difficulties we're dealing with right now. But thanks for all our loyal guys. I mean, we see we're about 50. That's great, I think, just to start out. We should be back on there hopefully soon. But thanks so much for coming on. We really appreciate it for jumping on over here with us.
We sure do. There's no question about that. So thanks to everyone for joining us and making us part of your day. We don't take that lightly. And we definitely appreciate that. For Conor Mack, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Saturday, a great weekend. Cash some tickets. Enjoy all the action. We'll see you again Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific for the College Basketball Closing Time Show, but also Monday, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific for the NBA closing time show with me, Connor, and Ski. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks for watching us right here on Pub Sports Radio.